What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. Today I'm gonna do a double header. I'm doing Maker's Mark Original and Maker's 46. As you can see, there's not a whole lot left of the Maker's 46. I'm gonna pour these out, tell you a little bit about them. I've been going back and forth as to whether or not I would do this review together or have two separate shorter reviews, but a long time ago one of my subscribers, also good friend and relative, asked me to do this as a head-to-head. So honoring his wishes from a long time ago, which probably a little too late, but still trying to honor them, I'll do them as a head-to-head. So they have the exact same mash bill, 70% corn, 16% wheat, and 14% malted barley. The Maker's Mark is, they're both no age statements, but the Maker's Mark is probably around 3, 4, 5 years old tops. This one is around 6 years old from the research I've done, but that's not disclosed as well. Like I said, the mash bills are the same. The biggest difference between these two whiskeys, which equates to their price difference as well, is the extra care that's given to the Maker's 46. And simply all it is they take French oak staves, they char them, and they let them sit inside the whiskey for a prolonged period of time to give them extra flavor. We're gonna find out if that's effective, and I do feel that the age is probably gonna play a factor as well. But before we get to that, I just wanna quickly point out that today is fight night, McGregor versus Mayweather. I'm gonna give you guys my predictions as well as talk a little bit about that after. But I'm gonna review these first so that those of you that are not interested in that fight can tune out. Also, I just want to point out I'm wearing my M1 Thai boxing t-shirt, and what M1 is a Muay Thai boxing gym. We also teach MMA at that gym. I'm one of the instructors there. I teach anywhere from a kids class, a fundamental beginners class for adults, an all levels adults class, and advanced fighters class, or sparring class, I guess you can say. I've been meaning to save this shirt for when I interviewed Robin Black, but I don't know if that's going to be happening anymore, or at least not in the near future. So I wanted to wear it tonight, since tonight is fight night, like I said, and we'll review the whiskeys and get back to talking about that. So this is considered a wheater, although not a lot of people consider or talk about Maker's Mark as wheaters. They don't put it in the same category as your Wellers and your Van Winkles. I recently had an opportunity to try Larceny, which I'm going to try to fit in next week. I will be getting the bottle tomorrow. So the thing I notice most with wheaters, especially this Maker's Mark here, is a nice cherry note. Okay, so Maker's Mark, most distinguishable note on that one, other than your common caramels and stuff like that for bourbon, is the cherry note on that. This one has more of a charred note. The color is not that far off, if at all. Yeah, the 46 is a touch darker. You don't get as much cherry on this one, but it's there for sure. There's a lot of common notes on these two. Bottling alcohol percentage differences: 45% on the Maker's Mark, 47% on the Maker's 46. I think when this was first distilled, it used to be well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not even going to say that. 47%. I'm just going to read what it says on the bottle. Taste for the Maker's Mark. Cherry comes through on the palate, soft. It's a really nice beginner bourbon in my opinion. Doesn't have very much alcohol burn at all. 45%, so you're getting a nice idea of what bourbon's all about at 45% without burning the palate, burning the senses in the nose. Definitely get some buttery corn. Caramel, cherry. A little bit more char note on this one. It's also fuller. Smoother too. It doesn't have as prominent a cherry note. You gotta dig through to get it, if at all. You get your subtle, you get your common bourbon notes of caramel, that buttery fudge type note. Almost like a syrupy note as well. As far as viscosity goes, the Maker's 46 is much more syrupy in my opinion. I'm gonna take one more sip of each and then give them a mark. You do get the subtle hints of heat, suggesting that the Maker's Mark is a touch younger. I would say around 4 years old if I had to guess. So the sweetness from the Maker's Mark comes from that cherry note. That's the wheater. That's the wheat alcohol in this whiskey, the wheat whiskey. I also noticed kind of a sidebar note. Whiskey spelled the English way as opposed to the American way. English in the sense of like London, England, British, sorry. Also Canadians spell it that way, but Americans tend to spell it with the E, so I found that kind of interesting. But yeah, a little bit more heat coming from the Makers despite the fact that it's bottled 2% ABV lower. Much more wood comes out, just bit my tongue. Much more wood comes out on the Maker's 46. A little bit of like a cedar note. On the nose, I would say I would give it to the Maker's Mark. That cherry note really makes a really pleasant smelling whiskey. But on the palate, it's definitely the Maker's 46. If I had to score these, I'd probably give the Maker's Mark a B+, so you're looking at like a 78, and the Maker's 46 an A-, so you're looking at an 80 on the dot. There's not a whole lot different. They're both nice whiskeys. I would recommend both of them. I paid about $50 for Maker's Mark, and Maker's 46 goes for around $70 here. Both of these are way cheaper in the US, which is something that people that live in Ontario have to deal with, but both really good whiskeys. I don't think I'd buy the Maker's 46 at the Canadian price, but I'm sure you can get it for around $40 in the US, which makes it a very reasonable price. Other than that, like I said, B+, A-, both nice whiskeys. I'm very curious to try the Maker's Mark cask strength. That's only available in the US, not only, but it's available in the US, but it's not available in Ontario, and I would really like to try that. So hopefully I'll get my hands on that in the near future when I travel to Buffalo, or maybe when we do the whiskey convention with all the reviewers. We'll see. Other than that, I have my Game of Thrones event tomorrow after the Game of Thrones season finale. I'm calling it Whiskey After the Thrones. I'll be rocking a shirt I had made for the event. and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys can join. Tune in for a live chat. Write in your comments on what you think of the show. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't watched it, obviously it's probably not going to be for you. But if you're up to date and you really want to discuss what's going on with Game of Thrones and what happened this season, we will love to chat with you. I think a few people will be joining me from the Whiskey Fabric, some of the Scotch 4 Dummies, and Swami from Malted in Montreal. Quickly on M1, like I said, I teach there. It's located in Woodbridge, so if you're anywhere in or around the GTA, we would love to have you guys come out. M1 Thai Boxing, you can type it in Google and you'll find the address, and we're more than happy to have you get 3 free classes just to try out the kickboxing, the Muay Thai, and see if you like it, see if it's for you. It's a really good workout, and I love it. I've been doing it for many years. It's one of my favorite hobbies. That's a side job I have. I'm a teacher by day. I teach grade 8 to students in elementary school, obviously, and it's one of my favorite things to do. As far as the fight goes, I really believe that Mayweather's winning this fight. I tried to explain what the comparison would be like to people that don't really watch martial arts or boxing, and I feel the best comparison to make would be the difference between a baseball player and a cricket player, or a rugby player and a football player. Both games have similar attributes, but very different sports. Okay, so in this particular sport, yes, in MMA, we use boxing as one of our tools, but Floyd Mayweather has been doing just boxing since he was pretty much a baby. So it's really difficult for McGregor to get in there and impose his will when he hasn't, I guess, acclimated to the boxing climate. He's sparred some boxers, he's done well. I know there's a lot of hype around it, but I just, coming from a stance where I actually prefer MMA, I'm a big MMA fan because I'm from a Thai boxing background. I just think that Floyd Mayweather has the advantage in many ways. I do think any fighter has a punching chance, and if McGregor does win, it's going to be in the first 6 rounds. Boxing rounds are a lot shorter than MMA rounds, but the difference is, although a title fight in MMA goes for 25 minutes, 5-minute rounds, boxing is a higher pace. There's no ability to take a guy down, get a little bit, not that you're resting, but there's 10-second breaks. We call them 10-second battles at M1. Within a round, there's many 10-second battles. Alex Ricci preaches this all the time. If in MMA you're getting really tired, you can tie the guy up, you can clinch him, you can hold him, you can literally just hug him till the referee gets involved, which they usually don't. Whereas in boxing, if you're getting tired and you clinch, the referee tends to break it, and then you separate and have to go back at it, and it's a lot higher pace, in my opinion. I know there's people that will disagree, but I've done both. I started my martial arts as a boxer, kickboxer, at another gym called Rexdale Fight Club, and then eventually I moved to M1 and focused on Thai boxing. But I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it'll be very interesting. Look to McGregor to execute some of his longer tools. He's going to be outside of the pocket and jumping in, closing a big gap of distance with that left hand. Okay, he's knocked out a lot of guys with that left hand. He has a puncher's chance by you executing that left cross effectively. If he can close 6-7 feet of distance with a heavy left hand, that might be a knockout for him. Although the gloves are a bit heavier, they're 8 ounces. Typically boxing gloves are 10 ounces, but tonight they're using 8-ounce gloves. It was kind of you know, compromise because McGregor always wears 4-ounce gloves in MMA. I do think Floyd will probably win this one defensively. He's gonna run around the ring. I wouldn't call it running around, just fighting intelligently, defending himself. A lot of slips, a lot of weaves, staying at a distance, staying away from Conor's big punches, and just grinding it out for 12 rounds. It'll end in a decision likely. I don't see Conor getting knocked out. Floyd's not known for his power. He's only knocked out a couple guys in his career. So if you want to know a little bit more about this fight, I may have time to do a live event today on Malted in Montreal's channel. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to, but I'm hoping to be able to. And we're going to be discussing the fight a little bit more in detail. So that's how I feel about the fight. That's also how I feel about Maker's Mark and Maker's 46. Come check us out at M1 if you guys get an opportunity. If you live, like I said, in or around the GTA, I would love to have you guys there. Cheers.